I trusted my family without question. I believed love meant loyalty. But the betrayal that changed my life didn't come from a stranger. It came from the person I defended the most. For years, I stayed silent, not because I was weak, but because I never imagined the truth would hurt this much. As the heavy walnut doors of the house opened, the cold air hit my face. It was the end of November, and New York City had lost its colors, enveloped in gray. The bag I carried on my arm contained a judge's ID registered in Victoria's name. But I hadn't come here to see that. I had come to see Michael, my son, and I wanted to be present at this important moment in his life. I entered the lobby. Lights gleamed overhead, crystal light displays painting the walls silver. Waiters hurried by, butlers formed groups, and the stage setup was underway. I had taken off my robe and put on my suit, but I still felt like I was in the wrong place. Or rather, I wasn't ready yet. Then, a flustered salon manager approached me. Her face was filled with worry. She avoided eye contact, and her steps were swift. She looked me up and down, then stopped as if she had changed her mind. "Excuse me, you're not a customer, are you?" He said. "The staff should be at the front." To the left of the reception hall, the catering preparation area. Downstairs, use the stairs. I didn't feel my face change, but it changed instantly. 30 years of habit. Accept what you're told. Keep your eyes down. Don't question. Don't be submissive. Don't serve. Of course, I said, keeping my voice low. "Which way should I go?" Moo gave me a stare like a beam of light, as if he was surprised I'd asked a question. But now he looked at me with more pity. Maybe there was something in my face. Maybe in my age. Or maybe he simply understood that I didn't belong here. "It's downstairs, the door on the right. The senior clothing preparation area is there. The manager is waiting for you. You're late." When I stepped down, all the glitz and glamour of the lobby were gone. The stairs were narrow, cold, and surrounded by brick walls that reeked of paint thinner. The sound of my shoes echoed in the water, the smell. I saw the source of it, a mixture of strong cleaning chemicals, industrial detergent, and used gasoline that emanated from it. I knew its quality. Counting the stairs for 20 years, I descended, feeling the same anxiety each time what I would find down below. We stood at the back kitchen entrance. Stainless steel countertops, industrial dishwashers, and waitresses working. No one looked at me. Fast, mechanical movements. Trays, glasses, hooks. A manager's daughter appeared in her 40s and spoke without making eye contact with anyone. "Are you here for catering? Great. The apron and work area are right there. First task, serving champagne. In the lobby on the ground floor. Guests are starting to arrive. You need to be ready in 5 minutes." He didn't ask me his name. I didn't give him mine. This wasn't just a role, it was wearing a mask. And I knew masks very well. When I put on my white lab coat, there was no mirror, but I didn't need one. I felt it. My arms looked different, a little shorter. My torso felt different, a little rounder. It didn't matter. The important thing was the loss of my identity. When I got to the lobby, the first thing I did wasn't call Michael. I analyzed the scene. I'm not a psychologist, but lawyers learn psychology. Federal judges learn even more. The first 30 seconds are always the most important. I entered the main drawing room. It was ornate, the ceiling was high, the wood dark and solemn. Angular rays streamed in through the windows, staining the champagne bottles golden. Guests had arrived, about 100 people, all in tuxedos and evening gowns. Class was etched in every face, every posture, every word. Cassandra Whitmore, Cassandra to be Hart, was now at the center of the scene. A white wedding dress designer, elegant. Probably a piece I could afford if I sold my car. Beside her stood her father, Harrison Whitmore, in a gray tuxedo, his face contorted with arrogance and satisfaction. To his right was my Michael, my handsome son. A black tuxedo, blue eyes, hair like his father's, but there was worry on his face. When the champagne started to melt, he said, "Mom, where did I get up from? I heard it because I was listening to you." But he didn't see me. Nobody saw me. I, Victoria Hart, federal judge, vice president of the Manhattan District Court, had become an invisible figure in a white coat in the house. Harrison Whitmore began to speak. "Forgive me, Michael, but I want to make sure this wedding is a manageable event. It's about aligning with Cassandra's mother, the marketing side, the press getting along well. Things coming from your side, excuse me, might be a little mundane. We need to keep our eyes open." Michael's face showed a worried smile. His father, my family. Absolutely, absolutely. Perfectly understandable. You You'd better not bring the department head, wouldn't you? The law faculty has some alumni who act like they're just ornaments. I watched myself as a waiter silently. I poured champagne and I listened. Then came the moment that changed the night. Harrison's lawyer approached him. The man was in his 50s with a massive build and an even more massive personality. Morris Daniels, I would learn his name later. But what I do know is that he leaned towards Harrison and whispered. Then both of them glanced at their senior partner who was standing a short distance away. Harrison, there are legal issues involved. Your merger, Morgan Dynamics, the acquisition, growing by millions of dollars. Good, but you need to tighten the belts. Don't lose the cream. What is cream? Harrison asked. Environmental issues, groundwater, toxicity reports. If the right judge finds that, there's no deal. The court cycle, years of fighting, money and reputation. Harrison didn't blink. And will you be the one choosing this judge? I can't choose. But Morris paused, glancing around the room. He was checking to see if anyone was listening. If the discovery documents are filed in the correct order, the judge might not find them. I heard it, plain, clear, and deadly. Tampering with evidence. Probable crime. And indeed, I heard it. I heard the voice, not whether it mattered or not, to the person who evaluated our work. Michael, your institution. The system called system name. Harrison turned his back to Cassandra and continued talking to the other partners. Partner, Morgan Dynamics technical report. Toxicity findings. Embedded document. File 3421, Discovery Box 7. I was no longer just a waiter. I became a witness. While serving champagne, I began to analyze the situation. Which judge would be chosen? Which court would hear the case? Federal court or state court? There are limited people who know about these matters within the federal system, but I am not one of them. As the night progressed, Michael didn't say a word to me. He didn't even see me. Cassandra laughed politely, dryly, as she was introduced to various people. Harrison continued talking, impressing the others. Around 11 o'clock, when I opened my eyes, I wasn't directed to a back office. When I wasn't in the kitchen, I wasn't cleaning with the other waiters. Sitting in my room, a room I recognized. At the desk of a lawyer friend who was borrowing the office, I turned on my phone. My finger touched the keys. My contacts, my teachers, my friends. Morris Daniels, Morgan Dynamics, Harrison Whitmore size million, evidence tampering. I sent a text message. The person who will receive it is Rebecca Flores. She was an old friend of mine who was a midwife. I learned about her in college. Then legal supervision. Message, Morgan Dynamics acquisition. Harrison Whitmore, falsification of environmental documents. Confession at PM, House witness, Morris Daniels, attorney. Rebecca replied an hour later, interesting. What do you need? The evidence, I said. The audio recording. An observer at Michael Hart's engagement party. One night, Rebecca wrote a minute later, she can. But it needs to go through legal proceedings. You know, even the federal court. Before I finished writing, when I explained, Rebecca stopped. She learned my identity. Victoria Hart, a federal judge, Rebecca's friend who worked at the same school. She admitted it. But there was a problem here. Harrison didn't have control over the selection of a federal judge. A judge would be appointed through a random selection system. The Morgan Dynamics case, if it were opened, would be assigned to a judge. He might be my judge or he might not. That's why I didn't leave. The next morning at noon, Ethan, while they weren't leaving the reception area, I went to Ev's kitchen. The manager girl walked past me, acting as if she hadn't seen us. Provided you are here, I said, I need some information. The manager paused. Whose lawyer are you? I'm not, I said, but who should I see today? The manager glanced from person to person. No one answered, so I continued. The Morgan Dynamics case. Who are involved? What about the Ministry of Internal Affairs? Which court is handling the case? The manager's expression changed. Are you a member of the staff? Yes, I said, but you can answer. Otherwise, I'll bring a lawyer, a voice lawyer, in federal court. Here, it wasn't a threat. It was real. The director finally spoke in a whisper. The case would go to the 2nd District Court of Appeals. A chief judge needed to be selected. The process had been completed, and the judge selection would take place within 5 days. The 2nd District Secretary knew 5 days, enough time, but only if the right judge is chosen. That night, after the previous night's work, as I left the house and called a taxi at his shop, I started making a plan. Not to protect Michael, everything would be fine with him. I knew he would split with Cassandra, psychology, social, class, values, it would take years. But it would happen, not to protect him, to protect the system, to choose him the right judge, the unquestionable judge, the judge with a sense of justice. To choose me, I am the judge. I opened some old files on my phone, a list of the principal judges of the 2nd District Court of Appeals. 9 people, 5 were nearing retirement, 4 were active. The selection was to be completely random, a computer-selected choice. But it can also be checked randomly. When I gave the information to the prosecutor's office, I would have activated the federal system. When they looked at Morgan Dynamics, they would send the file to the 2nd District. The 2nd District Secretary would make the selection. And if I was already there, if I was already appointed, this wasn't going to be easy. But when did it happen? At first, what happened seemed like a mistake. As the documents were examined, it gradually became clear that this mistake was no accident. Each new piece of information revealed a previously unnoticed detail. Understanding what those confidently signed documents were actually serving wasn't easy. The fact that these truths could have been hidden within a life shared for so many years made the situation even more unsettling. As memories were reviewed, it became clear why some moments felt so strange. Small details that were disregarded at the time were now parts of a larger picture. This realization created a profound shock, not only materially but also emotionally. When a person begins to question the trust they place in those closest to them, they also begin to doubt themselves. The burden of what happened was carried, not only in the documents but also in their thoughts. Facing a new truth each day became a process requiring patience. During this process, a feeling of loneliness sometimes weighed heavily on them. However, ignoring the truth was no longer possible. Although difficult to accept, it was the only way to move forward. And this acceptance began to slowly change the direction of the story. 5 days later, I was walking down the marble corridor of the federal courthouse. My shoes were professional, black, and made me take silent steps. My robe of dark blue federal judge's gown felt light yet heavy on my shoulders. A familiar weight. I had carried it for 23 years. Rebecca Flores's work had worked. The Morgan Dynamics falsification case had been filed with the district attorney's office. A federal investigation had been launched. And of course, Harrison Whitmore's civil lawsuit, the enforceability of the settlement with Morgan Dynamics had gone to federal court and been assigned to the 2nd Circuit Court of Appeals. The computer-based election system had worked. One of the 9 judges was to be elected. The 2nd District Secretary was to conduct the election at 9 a.m. on November 11th. That morning, I went to the Secretary's office, a formal visit, a checkup as Vice President. The Secretary, Sarah Chen, showed me her work, the computer system, the random selection algorithm. And she asked me, Vice President Hart, should I run the election myself? No, I said, but have the results delivered to my office. Sarah clicked. The algorithm ran. 9 judges' names appeared on the screen and slowed down. The names spun rapidly, slowed down, and stopped. The screen displayed Judge Victoria Hart, random selection, pure chance, an outcome that no one can question. Because I could not have chosen myself, but the system did. Sarah's face lit up in surprise. The Vice President, I'm known, I said. The law is dry. The choice is random. Assign the file to my office. Sarah was worried, but she didn't protest. The system did the rule. That's how rules always work. Now, 5 days later, I had already thoroughly examined the Morgan Dynamics file. There were 247 boxes of discovery documents. Rebecca, the audio recording provided by Flores, the conversation in the house, was among our discoveries. Morris Daniels and Harrison's candid confessions are machine readable, natural language for the jury. But that was nothing. The real evidence was the forgery of evidence. Beyond Harrison's, Morris's, the conversation I witnessed, the loss of Morgan Dynamics technical reports, the toxicity data, the missing report from where the discovery boxes should have been. Between 1 for 7151, but I could paste them. File 3421, discovery box. 7, file 3422, discovery box. 8, file 3423, the conversation a waiter had overheard the night before was now about to become legal evidence in a case. But before that could happen, I needed to see Michael, my son. It turns out he had broken up with Cassandra. The engagement was canceled. The press had shown interest. But Michael's explanation was simple and humane. A disagreement over values, simply, clear, no lie. When I called Michael, he came to my office, a law graduate, now working in the private sector, a fatherless kid. But he looked like most of my peers. Mom, she said, opening the door, is Cassandra's father's case in federal court? Yes, I said. In my court. Michael's face lit up. Was it supposed to be on your side? A lottery, I said. Random selection. The system is dry. Mom, Michael sat down. Tell me something. What happened at the engagement party? I know you went there for the catering. I know Cassandra's father knows how he treated you, but I didn't see it. Cassandra's father just ignored me the whole party. And when I told him to leave, he just laughed. I counted seconds, words, time in silence. Harrison Whitmore's company is buying it, I said. As part of the purchase package, they withheld environmental documentation, toxicity reports, groundwater contamination. They knew they would suffer millions of dollars in losses and they hid it. I don't understand, said Michael. What does this have to do with the engagement? Nothing, I said. Cassandra's father isn't on my side. He's someone who values money above all else. The wedding was faked in the student aid program. A girl, Sophia, she applied for a district attorney internship, and her application was lost because of Harrison's influence. Cassandra was chosen in her place. Michael's face turned red. Is this a sign? Yes, I said, but for him to understand you, that's not my job. It's a legal matter. But Michael, I stopped. Is he upset that the engagement is over? Michael thought. He really thought. Then he shook his head. No, he said, I felt comfortable. When Cassandra's father was around, I wasn't myself. And that's not a good sign, is it? In good marriages, your loved ones welcome you into your family. Cassandra's family, they saw life as money. I was just a tool. That's right, I said. But this is another case. For the Morgan Dynamics case, I want you to have absolutely nothing to do with it. Understand? Mother, do you understand? Yes, said Michael. I understand. After he left, I closed the file and poured myself a whiskey. Drinking was forbidden in courtrooms, but my office wasn't a courtroom. These are my rules. This is my space. The following week, the Morgan Dynamics case officially opened. Harrison Whitmore and Morris Daniels were subpoenaed. Their lawyers arrived. Federal prosecutor Rebecca Flores presented audio recordings and evidence in his plea of acquittal. On the first day of the hearing, I would sit in the courtroom. My face would be neutral. Inside, my heart would be cold and sharp. I'm not a psychologist, but I read people. Seeing people is our job. Harrison Whitmore arrived, not in a tuxedo, but in an expensive suit. His lawyers were with him. His hair looked grayer, shorter. His anxiety was evident. Rebecca started listening. The audio recording played. The conversation at the house. Harrison's voice. Clear. If the discovery documents are filed in the correct order, the judge might not find them. Morris's voice. We could bury discovery file 3,421. Box 7 among thousands of other pages. A judge especially. A busy judge wouldn't have time to examine all the documents. Rebecca then looked. Harrison's lawyer stood up. Presiding Judge Hart, this audio recording was made in your home without your permission, and it's not relevant to your case. It's a breach of privacy. Privacy, I said, my voice flat. These are statements made in a public space. The house is a private place, but the event was semi-open. There were waiters, guests, service staff. The expectation of privacy, I stopped, paused. No, go on. Prosecutor Flores. Harrison's lawyer sat down, but Harrison's face remained bloodied, dead. Then the morgue files were presented. Toxicity reports that should have been in boxes. One for 7151, but instead there were used papers, office notebooks, cafeteria food lists. Rebecca prepared and submitted a response. The Morgan Dynamics file contained 247 boxes. Boxes 1 for 7151 were missing. File tampering. The prosecution found the original. Documents provided by Harrison Whitmore, sent to Morris Daniels via personal mail. Confession, audio recording, written evidence. It all came together. In court, I issued a court order. The Morgan Dynamics acquisition is void. Harrison Whitmore was selected as judge for filing fraud. A federal investigation was launched. Morris Daniels was banned from working in the private sector, referred to a disciplinary board, and would likely lose his license to practice law. But this was just the beginning. The story came to light. The press showed interest. The judge, Hart's secret witness, read in the headlines. Harrison Whitmore's connections were revealed. Cassandra's internship scandal came to light. Sophia's case was reopened in law school. The Attorney General's internship program was re-evaluated. Sophia was formally applied for and accepted. Michael later clarified. Cassandra, on her mother's advice, turned down the Attorney General's internship. She's doing social work volunteering at a residential center. Perhaps her values were changing, but I focused on Harrison. I attended his court appearances. I paid attention to his face. Day 1, anger. Day 2, denial. Day 3, reconciliation. Day 4, surrender. Presiding Judge Hart, Harrison said on the final day of the trial, I want to make a promise. I deceived Morris, but I thought Cassandra would become the Attorney General in the future, the family's queen. However, that's enough, I said. Kaitomu punished. Next. But I listen. I always listen. When I say what people want to say, they say what they want to do, not just say. Harrison's company collapsed. Fines were being paid. Files were being opened. The federal system was working. If not, I was. 5 months later, I was sitting in my office. Outside the window, the night lights of New York City twinkled. The skyscrapers had millions of gleaming windows. Beneath them lay the lives of millions of people, teachers, nurses, waiters, students, all invisible, all yearning to be seen. One click, then Michael arrived. Mom, she said, did you hear Sophia is coming back from her Attorney General internship? Yes, I said. How? Perfect, said Michael. The senator hired her for his office. A legal intern, later probably a lawyer. But Michael paused. Mom, I still don't know what she did at the engagement party. How did all of Harrison's business get exposed? I looked at Michael. His eyes were full of questions, but I didn't answer. A lawyer should never violate a client's confidentiality. But I was a judge with no clients. Judges can't be witnesses. But I hadn't been. Sophia, I said, changing the subject. Are you in contact with her? A little, Michael said. At the Attorney General's internship program, there were people more like me, people from a different side. And Michael paused. Sophia told me she was treated very badly at that engagement party. Cassandra's father. But then someone found her. They told her, keep your head up. You're the only reason this party happened. Sophia never forgot that. My heart started racing, but my face remained expressionless. What is light? I asked. I don't know, said Michael, but Sophia wants to thank him. But nobody ever knew who he was, just a waitress. But he changed her life. I closed my eyes. 5 months ago, I was invisible in the house, wearing a white lab coat. But I had seen, I had listened, I had acted. The system had worked. Justice imperfect, slow, painful, but had worked. Mom, Michael said, this person, can you connect me with him or her? I thought about it. Maybe, but maybe not. In some stories, the protagonists don't have to know each other. They just need to make an impact, leave a mark, change their paths. Maybe someday, I said to Michael, but for now, let him live his own life. After Michael left, I took off my robe. My cupboard was open, and beside it, neatly folded, was a white lab coat. From home, the smell was still there. Cleaning chemicals, service. I held him. He was motionless. The smell was still there. They said justice is blind, but I heard the deafness, every word, every sound. And I danced within the system, the court, the law, under the umbrella of justice. Invisible, yet there. Serving, yet controlling. Harrison Whitmore's world had crumbled, but Sophia's rise had begun. This wasn't justice. This was balancing. But maybe it's the same thing. As time passed, it became clearer that what had happened wasn't just about the past. Decisions had to be made that could no longer be postponed. Legal processes were complex and emotionally draining. Every step had to be carefully considered. The disappointment experienced during this time can lead one to question their own strength. However, as they progressed step by step, a different awareness emerged. It became clear that control hadn't been completely lost. What had happened couldn't be undone, but the future could be shaped. This thought, albeit slowly, brought a sense of recovery. Seeking support wasn't a weakness, but a need. Accepting this need was a significant turning point. Connecting with people who had similar experiences reduced feelings of loneliness. Sharing experiences helped lighten the burden. Thus, the pain began to transform into a meaningful experience. And the story progressed towards standing on one's own feet again. 9 months later, I returned to F, but this time I wasn't a waitress. Michael wanted to introduce Sophia formally, dinner. On a Friday evening in a corner of the same room. No, not the ballroom. A smaller space. More intimate. More real. When I came to see Sophia, the first thing I noticed were her eyes, bright, awake. She had finished her internship as Attorney General. She was now a full-time assistant attorney in Senator Reynolds' office. She had a bright, promising future. She was chosen. Judge Hart, he said, extending his hand to me. Michael told me a lot about you. Are we being friendly? I said, call me Victoria. Sophia smiled, but then she paused. She looked. She didn't seem to not recognize him, but she acted as if she was trying to remember him. This, Sophia said, I have a peaceful feeling. I think I've seen you before, but perhaps. I said, did you come to my trial? Sophia said, I looked at some federal files during my internship as Attorney General. But Sophia paused. This is something else. I smiled. I didn't say anything. Neither did Michael. But that night, throughout dinner, Sophia looked at me periodically, trying to recognize me, trying to remember me. But she never quite found me. That's how it should have been. At the end of the meal, Michael spoke to me privately. Mom, she said, I love Sophia. She's different from Cassandra. She's genuine, very hardworking. Nothing is given to her. She earns it all. I know, I said. How do you know? Because I stopped. I thought, because I can see people, Michael, long before those things happen, we all know what's going to happen. Seeing character not just with my eyes, but by looking at other things, their voice, their behavior, their choices. Sophia is making choices, difficult choices, the right choices. Michael hugged me for a long time. Then he left. I would sit in my office. It was night, hours long. Outside the window, the city was asleep, but I didn't sleep. 5 months have passed. The cases are closed. Harrison Whitmore has been referred to a disciplinary board. Morris Daniels has lost his law license. The Morgan Dynamics acquisition has been completely canceled. The winner, nobody. The loser, the justice system. But Sophia won. Michael won. The system, even though it was broken, worked. As I was closing the last file, I received a message on my phone from an unknown number. Judge Hart, this is Cassandra Whitmore. You heard that I turned down a prosecutor's internship and that I now work for social services. But what I want to tell you, my father's case changed me. I've seen injustices done to girls like Sophia. There are other girls who need help. I will stand up for them. Maybe this is the reward for the chance I've been given. I read the message twice, 3 times. Then I deleted it. But I remember. It becomes clear that years built on trust have unnoticedly transformed into another reality. People question themselves most when they look back and realize they missed some signs. This questioning is painful, but it also brings them closer to the truth. And the story gains a deeper meaning precisely through this realization. A year later, courtroom, federal courthouse. I recognized Sophia while carrying a file, but as a lawyer, officially representing Senator Reynolds' office. She was filing a new case. He looked at me, acting like he didn't recognize me. But on his face, I mentioned you were a girl. Hold your head up. You're the only reason this party is happening. He held his head high. He walked in. He presented his file. The secretary accepted it. When he left, he passed by me. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. But we made eye contact for a second, maybe less. And I knew she understood. Back to the engagement party. But this time, it wasn't Michael's engagement. Michael and Sophia are getting married. At home, in a different corner of the same room. Michael's friends, Sophia's friends. Senator Reynolds arrived with his wife, Rebecca Flores, without her gown. Normal people, real people. I took off my robe. I put on my suit. On my sleeves, jewelry, simple but high quality. On my face, a smile, genuine. When Michael saw me, he started to cry. Mom, he said, were you happy to be here last year? He's very happy, I said. Even if it's secret. Sophia saw me. She hugged me. A long, deep hug. Thank you, perhaps. Or perhaps recognition, finally. Judge Hart, Sophia said. I know Michael didn't tell me, but you helped me, didn't you? Last year, at the engagement party. You kept me on my feet. I looked at Sophia. I looked into her eyes. There was light. The light of victory. The light of survival. Maybe, I said, but what kept you going was you. I was just reminding you. Sophia smiled. Then she turned to Michael. The wedding began. It was a magnificent wedding. Music, Flowers, joy. A wedding where no one had any hidden agendas. A wedding where no one made any moves for money. Just a day when two people declared their love for each other. Finished law school 30 years ago, I had never seen a wedding like this. I was a waiter, cleaning borrowed clothes. I served at the weddings of contemporaries. But this was my son's wedding. And I was there. I was seen. My name was called. I participated. At the wedding reception, I sat to Michael's right. Sophia's mother, a simple, hardworking woman, was to my left. We talked. She described Sophia's growth. It's bubbling, hard work. Look, her hugging Michael. Michael is a good boy, Sophia's mother said. He tells me things. You didn't leave him alone. You showed him life is hard, but it's doable. Yes, I said, it can be done. At the end of the ceremony, while Michael and Sophia were dancing, I went out onto the balcony up above the house. The city below was sparkling. Millions of lights, millions of lives. From someone, Rebecca Flores came closer. Rebecca said, you did all of it, every step of the case against Harrison. From the audio recording to the file. I asked, how did I find Sophia's attorney general file? As Senator Reynolds' lawyer, I know, I said, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but it was worth it, Rebecca said. Did you see Sophia? Is she happy? It's all your fault, all because of this. I looked at the city, a familiar sign, familiar rays of light. Justice, I said to Rebecca, it's never clean, but sometimes it's true. Sometimes things get better. We couldn't change the system, but this we changed one person's life. And maybe this is a start. Rebecca nodded. She hugged me. Then she left. Back to the wedding. Before I could even step out onto the balcony, a waitress passed by in the marble hallway of the house. A young girl, perhaps 20, a white apron, a fairy tale smile, but her eyes were tired. As I passed by him, I quickly adjusted my hair. Keep your head up, I told her. Here, in this isn't you. This is just temporary. There's more to you. The girl looked at me in surprise. Excuse me? Listen to me, I said. I've seen you. I know you. You weren't made for this job, for this place. But straighten your chest. Keep your eyes open. Life, it's going to be tough, but you can do it. I know because I did it. The girl smiled. Perhaps she didn't understand me, or perhaps she did, but she continued with her work, with the tray, with the glass, with the service. I watched it. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then I came back. In my office, the interior was clad in cold marble. Outside the window, the signs gleamed. A year later, I sat at the head of another case, another criminal, another victim, another system. But this time, I, as Evan Hams, didn't do any waitressing. It became waitressing just memory, a reminder of who I am, what I can do. They say justice is blind, but I've become deaf. I hear its voice, every conversation, every confession, every cry. And the system imperfect, slow, flawed, yet I use it for the powerless. In a blind system, I keep my eyes open. And perhaps that will be enough. Although the story seems to end at this point, its effects continue to live within a person for some time. The weight of what happened may not be immediately apparent, because some truths are not fully felt at first, but only as time passes. When a person looks back on the past, they gradually realize that what they experienced was not just loss or pain. This realization is not easy. It is often shaped by silence, reflection, and inner questioning. Life doesn't always give clear warnings. Sometimes the signs are hidden in small details. When trust is shaken, people begin to question not only others but also their own decisions. This questioning is exhausting but also transformative, because it is precisely at this point that a person begins to redefine their own power. What has happened cannot be undone. However, its impact on life can be changed. Over time, people realize that what happened to them doesn't completely define them. This understanding gradually restores a sense of control. Caution replaces lost confidence, and a new balance replaces broken order. This balance is not perfect, but it is real. The point reached at the end of the story may not be absolute relief, but it is a more conscious stance. People see their limits more clearly. They know better what to accept and what not to accept. This awareness makes the steps taken towards the future more solid. Perhaps the true value of this story lies not in a single event, but in the thought it leaves behind. A reminder that life can hold unseen risks, and that humans possess the strength to rise again no matter what. This strength is sometimes silent, sometimes slow, but it is real. The story ends here. However, what is told can create a new perspective in the viewer's own life, because some stories are told not to provide answers, but to make you think. And sometimes the greatest change begins with a quiet awareness.